All right, everyone, it's your boy Genius out here at the range today doing something a little bit unconventional for me. Again, I don't do these types of videos typically because they have a tendency to be controversial. But before we get started, as always, want to invite you to know Jesus Christ as your Savior. If you do not know, if you don't know what that means, if you've never heard that, if you have questions, or if you do know him as your Savior and maybe you're just going through some things, reach out to me in the comment section or at gsquaredtactical@gmail.com. Be more than happy to have a conversation with you about the gospel of Jesus Christ. Either way, what I'm going to be talking about today is, oh, first of all, the guy knows who he is. His name is Austin. He's the same guy that was smack talking the Diamondback AR. And I did a video on it, really running that thing hard. It did fine. Everyone was saying, I don't know who this dude is or who he thinks he is. He's one of those that thinks if you don't spend $3,000 on a gun, it's not worth having. Same dude, right? And I've kind of always kind of took a lot of what he said with a grain of salt, because I do realize with him having been in the military and everything, he had access to the upper echelon of things. And so every time I always went in there, he always said, "Hey man, you always have these. You come in here and you buy these Hollisons." He was a Trigicon guy for the most part. He said, "You have all these Hollisons. You're buying all these Hollisons, man." And he would kind of scoff a little bit about some of the budget-friendly red dots that I would get from China and stuff like that. And he would say, "Man, you're a connoisseur. You come in here, you spend big money on guns, man. You need to get yourself an Aimpoint." And as you know, recently I did pick up the Glock Coa, the 45, the cooperation between Glock and Aimpoint, where they made this slide cut specifically for this red dot, okay, for this Aimpoint. And typically in the past, if you wanted this setup, you basically needed a lunchbox or a mailbox or even a house that you could move into on top of your gun. It looked absolutely ridiculous. It hung over the sides. I was like, dude, there's no way. They put it on top of the PDP. I've seen it on top of that recently. And I'm like, dude, it looks ridiculous. And it looks like it's all in the way. And I did a video on this, and I understand that some folks said, "Oh man, that's still too long." Look, it looks bigger in video. Like one of the guys in the other gun store said yesterday, this is something I didn't know I needed until it was on the scene, right? You need this, okay? Now, with that said, he would always tell me I needed to buy the Aimpoint. Best of the best, man. I can't believe you come in here all the time and you're buying Hollisons and Trigicons for these high dollar guns that you're buying, and you're not buying an Aimpoint. It's the best, bro. So I want to give credit where credit is due. After having done the review, I'm like, man, you know what? This glass is super clear, almost as if it's not there. I've never had a dot that was more perfect. No splatter. I have astigmatism, but there's no splatter. It's almost like that dot is literally painted on the glass, like they took a Sharpie and made a dot on there. Crisp, clear dot, and the glass is unbelievable. Again, it's like it's not there. But that could be said about maybe some other optics you've had. I don't know. Okay. But what really made me want to do this video is I had, and I'm sure the Aimpoint, is a very reliable, you know, tested, proven Army, military, whatever. I'm sure it'll stand up to anything. Okay. I haven't personally got to put enough rounds through it. Definitely not going to torture test it because I bought the thing, right? But I haven't had it long enough to be able to say that. But what I know so far, fabulous, okay? But what really brought it home for me, what made me want to do this video today, is having came out here to the range yesterday with my new HK VP9SK, this IVS exclusive battle worn finish on here. Sounds like I'm saying IBS, don't it? It's IV like Victor, IVS. Anyway, so it was super, super sunny out here yesterday, right? And you know, I'm pointing down at my optics, and the sun is glaring right on me. It's kind of overcast today, but even though the sun is just barely shining, right? Even still, when I punch out, I can see my green dot because it's not as bright as it was yesterday, but I get this huge rectangular, it's almost like a picture frame around my dot. And then the brighter that sun gets, I completely lose the dot. I get this crazy glare on my glass, right? And completely lose my dot. And so what I found yesterday is I wasn't even able to use my dot after I got it zeroed. I was having to use my standard iron sights, which again is another reason why you need co-witnessing sights. You know, at least 1/3, 100% if it's not distracting. You need those co-witnessing irons on your gun. Me personally, I think it's irresponsible. Get mad at me if you want to, but I think it's irresponsible to carry a gun around with a failure point mounted on top of the gun and not having a backup iron. Just completely think it's completely irresponsible. Okay? Because again, I hope that if I'm carrying this gun, which I intend to do, that I don't get attacked in the sunlight. Because I promise you, when I point this out and that sun is bright, shining right here, dot is gone. All I see is this rectangular picture frame and this orangish, I don't know, like reddish, orangish picture frame around it, and the dot completely disappears. So what it made me think of is when I did the review on the G45 COA, and I held this dot directly in the sun, and I did it out on my front porch last night, and I told my wife to look. She said, man, that's outstanding. Like literally, I know the sun's not out bright right now, so it's not a good day to try to get a picture of it. But on my front porch yesterday, the sun's shining directly on it. I handed it to my wife. I turned it up one spot, you know, to get it a tiny bit brighter. And I said, hey man, point this up at the sun and see if you can still see that dot. So she pointed it out at the sun. Dot's just as good, maybe a little bit lighter, certainly a little bit lighter than it is in a darker spot, right? But I can find this tree trunk here in the sun like I did on my front porch. And if I bring it directly out of the sun over to the tree trunk, the dot is back to where as bright as it was before I ever pointed it at the sun, right? Well, if I take this gun, if I take my HK VP9 here with my Holosun SCS on here, and I point it up at the sun, right, directly in the sun, the dot is, well, again, today I don't really have a great deal of sun, but I did this on my front porch yesterday. The dot was completely gone, okay? And the glare from whatever that coating, I guess, is that they put on there was so intense that I almost couldn't see my standard irons, but I could still see those, right? But when I brought it over to a tree trunk, to a dark spot, right, still pointing it up at the sun, I still could barely, if any, see my dot. The dot had basically just disappeared. And it's mostly the glare, okay? Just the glare off of the front of it just, again, rendered it almost useless, if not completely useless, right? I needed my backup irons. So, and I'm certain that that is also the case, even though I don't have a Trigicon optic out here with me today. I am certain, almost 100% certain, that with my DPP, with my Trigicon, with all my other Holosuns, and any other dot that I've had, the same was true. When I pointed it in really high light area or a high lit area, it was so distracting. Even if I could still see my dot, it was so distracting that I found myself just using the backup irons, right? So just another reason to like and to carry. So in as much as I have told people, you know, this is a failure point, I don't know if you wanted to depend on this. And I made a joke yesterday. I hope I don't get attacked in the sunlight because I'm gonna need those irons or it's just gonna become point shooting at that point. And but that's not the case with this. Directly in the sun, I could still see that dot. Yes, it lightened up a little bit, but it didn't splatter. There was no glare, and it was still just like a speck on the glass. You know, I could still use it is what I'm trying to say. as the guy in the store said yesterday, Mr. Reed, you know who you are. We didn't know we needed this until we got it, and you definitely need this. Thanks so much for watching. Consider going over supporting me on Patreon. $5, $10 a month. You can also check me out at gsquaredtactical.com. Click on the 3 lines in the corner. Support the channel. Name your price. Put in there what you want. One-time donation. Also, super thanks. Check me out on Rumble as well. And as always, thanks so much for watching today, guys. All the comments. If you can't monetarily support me, hit the thumbs up. Subscribe. Tell all your friends and family where they can find the best blue-collar gun reviews on YouTube. And as always, to God only be the glory.